Shabbat Shalom, Israel. Shabbat Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to say all praises to Yahweh, B'Hashem, Mashiach, Yahushai. And I'd like to send that blessings out to all the Akim that are pushing his truth out in the four corners of the earth. I'd like to send that blessings out to all the Akim that are making pilgrimage to Zion 3 times in a year to the 3 pilgrimage feasts in which the Most High has commanded all the men of Israel to appear before him. And I'd also like to send that blessings out to all the Akawaf that are raising the children in the way of the Most High, so that when they grow older, they do not depart from the way of the Most High. So first and foremost, we're going to go into the 3 scriptures that we always talk about when we begin, because we're always going to go into the 3 pilgrimage feasts in which the Most High has commanded all the men of Israel to appear before him. And as always, we always start in Deuteronomy 16:16. So if you got your Bibles, open them up and go to Deuteronomy 16:16, and we're going to read that. So just read that for me.
Deuteronomy chapter 16, and reading from verse 16. 3 times in a year shall all thy males appear before the Lord thy God in the place which he shall choose, in the feast of unleavened bread, and in the feast of weeks, and in the feast of tabernacles, and they shall not appear before the Lord empty.
Right, and they shall not appear before the Most High empty. So 3 times in a year, all the men of Israel are meant to appear before the Most High. Right, 3 times in a year, and that is in the feast of unleavened bread, the feast of weeks, and in the feast of tabernacles, and they shall not appear before the Most High empty. Right, now let's go to Exodus. Right, we're in Exodus chapter 23, and we're going to read from verse 14.
Exodus chapter 23, and reading from verse 14. 3 times thou shalt keep a feast unto me in the year. Thou shalt keep the feast of unleavened bread. Thou shalt eat unleavened bread 7 days, as I commanded thee, in a time appointed of the month Abib. For in it thou camest out from Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty. And the feast of harvest, the first fruits of thy labors, which thou hast sown in the field. And the feast of ingathering, which is in the end of the year, when thou hast gathered in thy labors out of the field. 3 times in the year all thy males shall appear before the Lord God.
So again, 3 times in the year, it says all the men of Israel are meant to appear before the Most High. And it says the same thing again. It says the feast of unleavened bread, the feast of weeks, and the feast of tabernacles, right? So let's go to Exodus chapter 34, and we're going to read from verse 23 to verse 24, because it tells you what the Most High is going to do when we're keeping those feasts, right? Verse 23 to verse 24. If you want to read what the 3 feasts are, it says it again. What you have to do is read up from verse 18, right? So just read that for me.
Exodus chapter 34, and reading from verse 23. Thrice in the year shall all your men children appear before the Lord God, the God of Israel. For I will cast out the nations before thee, and enlarge thy borders. Neither shall any man desire thy land, when thou shalt go up to appear before the Lord thy God, thrice in the year.
Right, so 3 times in the year, all the men of Israel are meant to appear before the Most High. It says it again, right? But then it says, when you do this, I'm going to cast out the nations before you, and I'm going to enlarge your borders, right? Meaning you're going to grow, and no man's going to desire your land anymore. No one's going to desire it. Meaning he's going to make the land undesirable, right? When we go up to appear before him, right? So people aren't going to want it, right? And that's what's slowly happening. The Most High is making that land undesirable. That's why there's so much war. That's why there's so much bloodshed. Right, that's why there's so much madness going on around there in the Middle East, because the so-called Middle East, because that place was given to us from the River Nile to the River Euphrates. Right, it's a big chunk of land that belongs to us, where we should be living. Right, because it was a promise. It was promised to us from the Creator. Right, but in order for that to happen, we have to first be returning back to Him and doing the things that He says. Right, doing the things that he says, and that's why even in Deuteronomy 30 it says, when we're in the lands of our captivities, when we remember and bethink ourselves in our captivities and turn back to him with all our heart, mind, body, and soul, us and our children, that then he'll turn our captivity. Right, so there's always stipulations for the things he's going to do. We have to do something to get the Most High to move, to do his part, because he'll do his part as long as we do ours. Right, as long as we do ours. But his part, it always depends on what part we play. If we do evil, then evil's going to come on the earth. If we do good, then good's going to come on the earth. Right? So depending on what we do, right, is the stipulation for what he will do. right? He will give a reward for something that you do, right? There will be a reaction to every action, right? So that's what the scripture says, whatever you sow,
That will you reap.
that's what you're gonna reap. So if you do good, you're gonna get good. If you do bad, you're gonna get bad. That's just the way it is. That's why when the law was set before us, right? The commandments were set before us. Moses said, I set before you this day life and death. Therefore, choose life. Therefore, choose life. Because life is keeping the commandments and death is not keeping them, because all not keeping them does is breeds death. Because that's how death came into the world, through sin, through not listening to the words of the Creator. That's how sin came into the earth. Or how death came into the earth. Right? So the 3 feasts are very important. Why? Because it's a part of our culture. It's a part of us getting back to where we were.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's important, because we're not going to understand our ancient past unless we start to go back to our ancient past. And the more we do and the more we learn is how we're going to get back there. We're not going to get there by just reading or by just knowing. It's about doing, right? It says, the scripture says, a good understanding have all they that do his commandments, that do his commandments, right? Because knowing them is doing them. That's what knowing them really is, because you're not really going to know them until you do them. Because just having it in your mind isn't the same as knowing them. Because when you put something into action, then you really know it. Because you know how it works, how things go, how you have to do things. And that's built up over a period of time. So we have to get back to that, and we have to get back to our ancestors' paths that was given to us by the Creator. Right? That was given to us by the Creator. We need to turn back, and turning back includes keeping these 3 feasts, right? And if you can't make it, right, due to specific circumstances, might be monetary circumstances, it might be that you're not allowed to travel out of the country, it could be anything, but that doesn't stop you from teaching it, doesn't stop you from talking about it, it doesn't stop your mouth from moving, it don't stop that. It doesn't stop that. So if you've got the means to talk to people, or you can go out and talk to people. I don't know if you can street preach, if you can do videos, if you can just talk to people anyway that you see. You might just see somebody and you might talk to them, and you might wake them up. You might ask them a question. It doesn't take much to do that. It doesn't take much to do that, but everybody has their part to play, but it just depends on what part you're gonna play, or the Most High wants you to play. But you're not gonna play a part if you're not doing anything. If you're not doing anything, right? But everybody has a part to play. It's just whether you want to take that up. Right? But let's get into what we're gonna be talking about today, right? Because we're gonna be going into a few current events. And we're gonna commentate over a video. I think what we're gonna do is we'll leave the video until last, but we'll go through the articles first, and then we'll go over the video, and then we're gonna commentate on it, because the video is an interview that was done with Kyrie Irving, right? And we're gonna talk over a specific few points, right? When we're watching the video and whatsoever. We're going to be bringing it out. Why? Because we need you to know and to understand the devices that the nations will use to dismiss what we're saying, or how they dismiss what we're saying. What tactics do they use, right? Because sometimes the tactics aren't in your face. Sometimes they're just they're covert. A lot of the times they're covert, so it doesn't look like it's them dodging, but it is them dodging, right? But it is them dodging, right? So first, we're gonna go into the articles then, and then we'll go into the video towards the end. So the first article, I'm gonna bring up on the screen. So for those that still haven't heard or know about this, about like the Nord Stream being blown up, so the gas pipelines that come from Russia into Europe, if you don't know about them being blown up, they were blown up, right? And there's two stories, right? No, sorry, there's three stories. There's their story. Well, there's two people's stories. So you got the West story, the Russia story, and then you've got the truth, right? But here you can see that Russia is now saying, right, because Russia had been keeping quiet about it. They were denying that they did it, but they were keeping quiet about who they say did it. But Russia saying UK Navy blew up the Nord Stream, right? And there was even an article that we brought out not last week, a few weeks ago, which says that there were new US ships in the area doing drills. US ships in the area doing drills around the same area that that the Nord Stream had been blown up. So what were they doing there? Right? What were they doing there? But England's denying any involvement in it. Right? So it says here, Russia says UK Navy personnel blew up pipelines. Russia says UK Navy personnel helped attack Crimea. Helped attack Crimea. Russia does not give evidence for claim. Britain denies Russian claims. Russia says will seek UN attention. Right, so Russia saying that it was England that was doing it. Right, so it says here, Russia's defense ministry said on Saturday that British Navy personnel blew up Nord Stream gas pipelines last month, a claim that London said was false and designed to distract from Russian military failures in Ukraine. So they're trying to say that the only reason why Russia's saying that now is because now Ukraine's had a fight back, or they've supposedly managed to take back some territories, right? And they're just trying to say it's to distract from that. However, why would Russia blow up their own pipelines? Why would they blow up their own pipelines? They're trying to say it's to do with them trying to sabotage Europe getting gas from Russia. But why would they sabotage their own pipelines? It doesn't make sense, right? So then it says here, Russia did not give evidence for its claim that a leading NATO member had sabotaged critical Russian infrastructure amid the worst crisis relations between the West and Russia since the depths of the Cold War. The Russian ministry said that British specialists from the same unit directed Ukrainian drone attacks on ships of Russian Black Sea Fleet in Crimea earlier on Saturday, that it said were largely repelled by Russian forces, with minor damage to a Russian minesweeper. According to available information, representatives of this unit of the British Navy took part in the planning, provision, and implementation of a terrorist attack in the Baltic Sea on September 26 this year, blowing up the Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 gas pipelines, the ministry said. Britain denied the claim, right? So Britain's denying the claim, right? But someone's blown it up. Somebody has blown it up, right? And I know that the West are privy to, not privy. They're more likely to push their propaganda on us. So we don't know the true extent of what's happening or their story. If you look at mainstream news, but when we were looking at non-mainstream news, right, we know that there were US tankers in there, or not US tankers, US like submarines, right, that were around the area doing drills around the same time that place was blown, right? But it's funny how they were there and now all of a sudden it's blown up, but somehow it's the Russians that did it. It's the Russians that blew up their own gas pipelines. Right, and we know that Britain and the US are in like leagues with one another. So we know that they're both allies. So they're both allies and they're working together. But it's funny how the West has their story, but Russia saying it's not them, and Russia saying it's Britain. Right, so you got this going on, right, and they don't really talk about this mainstream news. You don't really hear about it a lot, and that's because they want to keep you in the dark and they want to keep you away from the reality of what's going on. Because remember, Putin's already said that if the US or the UK or any NATO member, right, gets involved in what's going on in Ukraine, then there's going to be retaliation, right? There's going to be retaliation. And funnily enough, now there's been a story about apparently two people. I think the article was this week. What, 2 people in Poland died apparently from a stray Russian missile. Right. So now because they're trying to say that to not so much, because I want to use the word legalize, but not so much legalize, but they want to justify them attacking Russia.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get people on side. Oh, they've hit people in Poland now, right? And that's what they do. They come up with a narrative and a story to get people on side. And the reason why they want to do that as well is because they need a large amount of people to draft into the war.
It's propaganda.
When the war does hit. Right, Shabbat Shalom. Right, they need people. They need people in their army, and that's the reason why they push this agenda and they push this narrative. The narrative they want you to think is happening, so that when they call people up to draft, they don't have any reservations about it, or they don't have enough information to make the right decision. They just got the information that they've been given to make the decision to go into the war. Right, it's just literally to rouse people up, to get people up ready to fight. Right, and the Most High is the one that's making this happen as well. The Most High is get me the scripture that says wake up the mighty men. Wake up the mighty men, right? And while you're getting that one, right, I'm gonna get because the Most High is making this war happen, right? So that people understand his power, right? Because he's gonna bring destruction. He's going to bring destruction, right? And he wants war to happen. He wants war to happen because he wants to bring down these nations, and he's waited a long time for this. The scripture says that he's been long suffering. Long suffering. So let me know when you find that scripture. And I'm just going to read this one. Is it this one? Joel 3. Joel chapter 3.
Same one.
Is it? Is it the same one?
Read
all right, so read it, yeah.
Was
it verse 9?
Yeah.
Right, so read at the top first.
So Joel chapter 3 and reading from verse 1. For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem.
Right, so we know that it's a future prophecy because there hasn't been a time in history when the captivity or the scattered sheep of Israel, right, have come together and come back. Right, there hasn't been a time in history when both Judah and Jerusalem have come back. That's never happened in history. Right? So we know that that's future prophecy, right? Read on.
I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land.
Right? So he says he's going to gather nations. He's going to bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, or you can call it the valley of decision, or the valley of the Most High's judgment. Right? Because the Most High is gathering the nations together to fight one against another, because he knows that when he sends his son, they're going to turn their weapons on him, but he wants them to have all of these weapons so that they're at the height of their technology. Height of their technology, so much so they're gonna believe that they can fight against the Messiah, right? But he said he's gonna bring them into the valley of Jehoshaphat and plead with them there for his people. And the plead isn't begging, the plea isn't pleading, isn't literally pleading. It's him bringing his judgment on the earth for his heritage, Israel, whom was scattered amongst all the nations, right? And they parted his land. So when we're talking about us going up and keeping the feast 3 times in a year, right? Remember, if we were given from the Nile to the river Euphrates, how much of that land has been parted and given to so many different people? Right? Given to so many different people, and the Most High wants to bring this war on the earth. Right. So go down to where the next bit where it says wake up the mighty. Where's 9?
It says Joel chapter 3 and verse 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war.
Right. Prepare war. Right.
Wake up the mighty men.
Wake up the mighty men. And let's see what the Most High is doing. Right. Read on.
Let all the men of war draw near.
Let all the men of war draw near. Read on.
Let them come up.
Let them come up, right? So read on.
Beat your plowshares into swords.
Beat your plowshares into swords, right? So before all of this war like started brewing, right? Remember, every so often you probably get like an inkling of war, and it would go down. But mainly, people were more worried about economy, finances, working, and stuff like that. So they were focused on that stuff. But now their focus is in weaponry, guns, ships. Pilots, airplanes, anything you can think of military wise. That's why you got 5G now as well. 5G, because you don't need 5G speeds. You don't need 5G speeds. 4G speeds are instant enough. So the fact that you've got 5G speeds is telling you they had a reason, right? Because things aren't created without a reason for them to be created. So they needed 5G for something. They needed 5G for something. And it's just funnily enough how they have remote drones now that they can control from far away. Using 5G. Funnily enough. Right? But you don't need 5G. That the layperson or the normal person, right? The normal person, everyday person, doesn't need 5G. They didn't ask for 5G. So the fact that they've got it out there's a reason for it. And you have to question to yourself and ask yourself, why? You have to question and ask yourself why. Right? So they're gonna beat their plowshares into swords. So they're gonna use the things that they've made for monetary gain and monetary wise, right? And they're gonna use it for war. Right, read on. So beat your plowshares into swords,
and your pruning hooks into spears.
Right.
Let the weak say, "I am strong."
Right. So even the smaller countries, right, and the countries that didn't have nuclear power, right, a lot of them have nuclear power now, right. And not only do they have nuclear power, right, they're being vocal, because certain countries would keep out of things. But North Korea became vocal as soon as they had nuclear weapons. As soon as they had nuclear weapons, right? So there's different countries coming out now, right, with nuclear weapons, and they're saying we're strong now.
Mm-hmm. We can join in this,
right? Mm-hmm. So the Most High is making it happen, right? Verse 11.
Mm-hmm. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about.
Mm-hmm.
Thither, cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Let the heathen be wakened, and come to the valley of Jehoshaphat.
Right.
For there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about.
Right. So the Most High is doing this to judge the heathen, man. He's doing it to judge them. Right. And we're going to stop there, but he's using that to judge the heathen, man. Right. And he's bringing this war about. So all this propaganda and stuff like that, the Most High is making it happen, man. The Most High is putting it in their hearts, man, to make this whole this whole agenda happen. Right, he's put into the heart of Putin to take Ukraine. Right, and he's put in the heart of the UK and US or the West or NATO to fight against Russia to get Ukraine into NATO? Right? That's what the Most High is doing, but he wants to brew a war against them so that he can bring his judgment on them. Right? Because the scripture says the end of them is gonna come through them. So they're gonna destroy themselves from the inside. Right? And that's the way the Most High has planned it. Right? The Most High said, I have declared the end from the beginning. He declared it from the beginning. Right? So let's get another article, right? So this is talking about the Nord Stream as well. Right? So it just says here, so Sweden has sent out investigators to have a look down there, right? So they haven't named the culprit, right? As you read it, they haven't named a culprit, or they haven't named anybody that they think is the actual instigator, right? So it says here, Swedish investigators announced Friday the conclusion of their formal investigation into the Nord Stream pipeline blast on September 26th. To nobody's surprise, the investigation has concluded the natural gas leaks, which rocked European energy markets and resulted in a tit-for-tat accusation between Moscow and the rest of the world, was the result of gross sabotage. While not naming the culprit, the Swedish final report of this initial stage of the inquiry uncovered.
Can you blow it up a bit?
Huh? Oh, blow it up, yeah. Is that better?
Yeah, that's better, yeah.
Yeah. So it says here, while not naming a culprit, the Swedish final report of this initial stage of the inquiry uncovered evidence of foreign objects placed on the pipelines. Right, so they're saying that it was sabotage, and they found foreign objects, like obviously they would have found like debris of missiles or something like that down there. To say obviously they blew it up, right? Whoever blew it up, and it says during analyses carried out, residues of explosives, like I just said, have been identified on several of foreign objects seized. The Swedish prosecution authority statement said, in the crime scene, investigations carried out on the site in the Baltic Sea, the area and the extensive damage to the gas lines as a result of detonations have been extensively documented. Russia has denied responsibility, while at the same time pointing the finger at Washington or its allies. So you see, even Russia's pointing its finger at the US, but we know that US ships were out there as well. So what were they doing out there? That's the question you have to ask yourself, right? That's the question you have to ask yourself, right? You can't say it's them, right? But what you can say is they were out there. So what were they doing out there? And and why were they there, right? And could it possibly be them doing it? Question it. Ask yourself, right? Ask yourself, because you should always be questioning the things that are happening around you. Mm-hmm. Always be questioning it, because the moment you don't question it, you'll just take everything they say out of their mouth and just accept it. And then when you do that, they'll just lead you into foolishness, or lead you into folly, or lead you into your own death. Because the fact they want you to fight for the countries that don't even want you there, but they've only got you there because they're getting monetary gain out of you, right? Is a problem. They want you to work. They want you to fight for a country that doesn't even want you there. That if the circumstances were right, they'd have you back in slavery again. But they want you to fight for that country, right? So it says here, Swedish investigators say they will now work toward establishing who is behind the sabotage. And it says the advanced analysis work is still in progress. The aim is to draw more definitive conclusions about the Nord Stream incidents, the agency said. The investigation is extensive and complex and will eventually show whether anyone can be suspected of and later prosecuted for this, right? So they're saying that they don't know who it is, but they're having a look into it, right? They're having a look into it. So there's a lot going on now, and there's a lot of investigations into what happened there. But we know that the West can't be trusted with information, or the information they give you can't be trusted, because they will use false information or misinformation to get you to get you to move in a certain way or to do a certain thing. Right? They're master manipulators. They're masters at it. Right? Because in order to get people to do things, how do you do it? You manipulate them. And that's what like the past few years are about: manipulating you into getting to do what they want to do. What do we have to do, or what is your price to do what we say?
Mm-hmm. Everyone's got one.
They say everybody's got a price. That's what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What do we have to take from you and give you back for you to do what we say?
Mm-hmm.
And they tested that out, and they found out that for some people it was going on holiday. They found out that for some people it was going to the beach.
Mm-hmm.
They found out for some people it was going outside.
Mm-hmm. Going shopping.
For some people it was going shopping.
Mm-hmm. Some people was going cinema.
Right? For some people it was to go revel.
Mm-hmm. Club. The clubs.
Right? And they found out. They did find out what the price would be for some people. Right? And people went out there and they went and did what they thought they had to do. Right? What they thought they had to do. But what they should have done is actually thought about it. What's the best way to say it?
More diligently.
Yeah, they should have thought about it more diligently.
Mm-hmm. And that's going to tie in nicely to the Kyrie situation, because when he was first, when they first were trying to cancel him, is when all that was happening, and he refused to take it, and they tried to belittle him. And then recently, they've posted a statement saying that, there was no real reason for people to have taken it. So now it's come full circle.
Yeah, because that's what he was talking about before.
Yeah.
So just before he came out and was talking about us being Israelites or our history being taken and whatsoever. See, before he was even talking about that, he was talking about us not doing what they said,
mm-hmm.
and the fact that things weren't right when you were being forced to do something against your will, right? And he says it was a violation of your basic human right to have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
It was a violation of your human right to have a choice. That's what he was saying, right? Without going into too much detail, because you say a certain word, they'll be on us,
mm-hmm.
and they'll take us down. But you know what we're talking about.
Put that fair use upon me.
You know what we're talking about, mm-hmm. right? So you know what? We'll go to the Kyrie video now, seeing as we're talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go to the Kyrie one now, right? So let me just bring that up on the screen.
Just click the fair use up there quickly.
We all love the World Cup. The World Cup is great.
Okay, let me skip this 1 second.
In itself.
So I'm going to play this in a second. Just give me a moment. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put this up here, right? Just to put a copyright disclaimer out there that this is for fair use, right? And we're just doing it for criticism and comment. So we're just commenting over it, right? And for research as well, right? So this is under the fair use purposes. It's under fair use purposes under the Copyright Act. So let's put this out. Let's put this on there.
Hindsight. Sorry for the hurt that your post caused people.
I take my responsibility for posting that. Some things that were questionable in there, untrue. Like I said, and the first time you guys asked me when I was sitting on that stage, I don't believe everything that everybody posts. It's a documentary. So I take my responsibility.
There's an echo. So there's an echo, so I think you might need to turn your mic down or
In your mind, you said I didn't mean to
turn
cause
your
any
mic up.
harm. Were you apologizing?
It's better now.
I didn't mean to cause any harm. I'm not the
Run
one
it
that
back-
made the
run it
documentary.
back- run it back-
What are the specific things in the document?
Hindsight.
run
Are
it back from
you
the
sorry
beginning.
for the hurt? that you're-
Yes, at the beginning. That was at the beginning.
Hindsight. Are you sorry for the hurt that your
Okay.
post caused people?
I'll take my responsibility for posting that. Some things that were questionable in there, untrue. Like I said, and the first time you guys asked me when I was sitting on that stage, I don't believe everything that everybody posts. It's a documentary. So I'll take my responsibility.
What are the specific
It
things?
seems like Adam Silver wanted to hear the word "I apologize," or in your mind, you said I didn't mean to cause any harm. Were you apologizing or not?
I didn't mean to cause any harm. I'm not the one that made the documentary.
What are the specific things in the document?
I think some of the criticism of the Jewish faith in the community, for sure. Some points made in there that were unfortunate.
Kyrie, are you surprised that you did hurt people?
Surprised that I did hurt people.
Are you surprised that reaction, some of the things that you did hurt people?
Yeah, I think I can ask a better question. It's just, where were you when I was a kid, figuring out that 300 million of my ancestors are buried in America? Where were you guys asking those same questions when I was a kid learning about the traumatic events of my familial history and what I'm proud to come from and why I'm proud to stand here and why when I repeat myself that I'm not going to stand down, it has nothing to do with dismissing any other race or group of people. I'm just proud of my heritage and what we've been through.
There, right? Because he asked the question, right? Where were you when I was young, seeking my understanding of my heritage, not knowing that hundreds of millions of my people's blood is spilled on the land? Where were you? Right? Where were you when that his ancestors were taken into slavery and was raped, robbed, and murdered? Where were they then? Where were they then? He put a link in a post. Okay, that's all he did. What all of a sudden now, he's become a bad guy. The thing which he posted, there's some information in there he got understanding from. He didn't say, "Oh, watch this. I believe in every single thing which is in there." But there's some things which are true in there, right? There are some things which are true in there, right? So, and then they come against him. Nike dropped him, right? They banned him from games and gave him a list of things he has to do, right, to reconcile. For what? For what? So he's just making it clear that, hey, listen, if you're going to come against me for posting a link, what about what happened to my ancestors? Why are you not more concerned with that history and those things than me posting a link? Right? It's very important, because we are awakening, and the thing is, you're going to start to find the real ones coming out. We had some other Israelites waking up, and they were afraid. But this is not the time to be afraid. This is not the time to be afraid. This is not the time to be fearful. Right? So, Kyrie, as far as up to now, he's been a real one. He's standing his ground. He ain't done nothing wrong. But yet still they're coming against him. And even though he's brought out that information, right? But let's see how they respond. Yeah, let's see how they respond, right?
And the fact that this has pinned me against the Jewish community, and I'm here answering questions of whether or not I'm sorry or not on something I didn't create, and it was something I shared and I'm telling everybody I'm taking responsibility, then that's where I sit. So, these same questions that you guys ask, me dealing with it as being a melanated, pigmented person all around the world and dealing with racial biases against my skin color, demeaning me because of my religious beliefs, and I'm still sitting in the seat standing. So I take my full responsibility. Again, I'll repeat it, for posting something on my Instagram or Twitter that may have had some unfortunate falsehoods in it. But I also am a human being that's 30 years old, and I've been growing up in a country that's told me that I wasn't worth anything, and I came from a slave class, and I come from a people that are meant to be treated the way we get treated every day.
Right.
So,
So, did you want to say something?
No, continue.
Oh, sorry.
I'm not here to compare anyone's atrocities or tragic events that their families have dealt with generations of time. I'm just here to continue to expose things that our world continues to put in darkness. I'm a light. I'm a beacon of light. That's what I'm here to do. You guys ask me questions about basketball, I give you my expert opinion. You guys ask me about other things, I give you my opinion, and it's met with whatever you believe the perception or the deception is. You guys investigate my life every day, and you justify it by serving your own purpose, which I honor. I would like the same respect in return, figuring out just like anyone else. So please keep that same energy when we're talking about anti-other things, because just because I post a documentary doesn't mean I'm anti-Semitic, and doesn't mean that I'm automatically standing with everyone that is believing in it. So it's unfortunate timing that we're in, but I'm glad that I could stand on the truth, because I'm not afraid of these mics, these cameras. I used to be looking everyone in the eye and telling them the truth, and I'm proud of who I am. Any label that you put on me, I'm able to dismiss because I study. I know the Oxford Dictionary, you look it up, right? One of the biggest mistakes I had in being a kid was not knowing European or Western language until I started looking it up and understanding the definitions and why they say, if you want to trick a black person, put it in the book. I was wondering my whole life why they said that. Now I'm 30 years old and I know reading is a superpower.
Yeah, stop it there.
It helps
Stop
me
it there. Yeah, stop it there.
Oh, stopped it. Stopped
Right.
it.
So he said he was wondering his whole life. Yeah. Okay. So he's saying there, he was wondering his whole life why they say to hide something from a black person, put it in a book.
Put it in.
Put it in a book, right? Now that's a proverb, right? That's a proverb, right? Get the Deuteronomy. Get Deuteronomy 28, right? Where it says you shall become a proverb. And the video is a bit choppy. I don't know why it's so choppy. Is it choppy? On your
Choppy.
end? Yeah.
Nah. It's clear.
It's choppy on my, very choppy on my end. But
What does the
anyway,
video keep stopping?
it keeps, when he's talking, the voice goes up and down. Then sometimes you can't hear what he's saying, right? And then sometimes there's a lag in what he's saying, right? So I don't know why that is. It might be something to do with internet connection. But anyway, we'll get through this. Don't worry, right? So read the scripture. Deuteronomy, where it says you shall be.
Yeah, I got it now. 1 second.
Right.
So it's Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 37. It says, and thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord thy God shall lead thee.
Right. And that's what he was saying. He was saying he never knew why they would say stuff like, if you want to hide anything from a black person, put it in a book. That's because they forced us by the threat of death not to read. That's why. Because the thing is this, right, is power is in language. Power is in the language, You read when you can speak, when you can read and understand, you can reach hearts and minds, right? It doesn't matter what language it's in, right? So the reason they were stopping us learning the English was because we would read it, and then we would come to the understanding that we are the children of Israel, or that what they were doing was wrong. They shouldn't be doing what they're doing. So he didn't understand that. He didn't understand that when he was growing up. He understands it now. That's why he posted the link.
Khan.
And now he's posted the link. He's got beat down. He's got a beat down of his life for what? Posting a link. Right? So it shows the hypocrisy of these people, the hypocrisy, right? The hundreds of millions of people which have died, which blood stains not just the Americas, but everywhere where the slaves were taken, the children of Israel were taken and scattered to. Everywhere that they went, their blood stains that land, and that blood the blood of that land has not been cleansed, not yet. But for that to happen, right, is exactly what he was talking about earlier about world war, right? So get the scripture about the land being defiled by the blood, right? Get that scripture, because this is very, very important, because these two topics go together hand in hand, right? Because a payment for the evils which have been done and perpetrated on this earth are going to be recompensed. They're going to be paid for, right? And that's according to the Most High, not according to what I think, not according to what I believe, according to the Most High himself, right? So read it for me.
Numbers chapter 35 and reading from verse 33. It says, so ye shall not pollute the land wherein ye are, for blood it defileth the land, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it.
By the blood of him that shed it, right? So when somebody sheds the blood in the land, innocent blood at that, the person, right? And it's not just the person, it's their genealogy, it's their generations, it's the same blood. So you might commit a wicked, heinous crime in, say you committed it in the year 1000, right? Now you committed that, nothing happened at that time, but then the Most High, what he does, he brings it about so that something happens in the year 1500 where your blood is spilt, your children's blood. So it's not you per se who did the action, it's your seed. That blood has to be spilt for the land to be cleansed, right? So that's where we are at this moment in time. So when he said, where were you when I had to find out by myself that millions of my ancestors' blood was spilt on this land, right? Because there is there's no rational answer. There's no rational answer for them to give, right? So let's continue with the video, because let's get to the point where the interviewer now, he's got the chance to address some of the things which Kyrie has said, right? He's got a chance to address some of the things he has said. Let's see if he does. Play.
1 second.
Understand where I'm going and where I come from. Like a tree with roots.
Kyrie, the documentary listed among falsehoods. It said the Holocaust didn't happen. Do you
Again,
believe the Holocaust
those falsehoods are unfortunate.
You see?
And it's not that I don't believe in them.
Stop it. Stop it. Go back a bit now. Go back a bit to the point where he just finished his talking, and listen to the guy. He got nothing to say with what Kyrie has said. All the things that Kyrie's just dropped. Right? Plays.
And where I'm going and where I come from. Like a tree with roots.
Kyrie, the documentary listed among falsehoods. It said the Holocaust didn't happen. Do you
Again,
believe the
those
Holocaust
falsehoods are unfortunate. And it's not that I don't believe in the Holocaust. I never said that. Never, ever have said it. It's not.
So 1 second. So the only thing he can go to from everything Kyrie said is the documentary. So nothing Kyrie Irving just said meant anything to this guy. He goes straight. It had things about the Holocaust in it, right? Yeah, and even if it did have things about the Holocaust in it, there's a book called Mein Kampf. That's a German book. It's still being sold. People can purchase it. So why don't you go and find out everybody who's purchased that book and condemn them and say you believe in the ideology of Hitler? Why is that book still being sold today? Why? Because not everybody who buys that book believes everything which is written in it, and some people only buy it to see or to work out the mind of Hitler. They don't. They just want to see what he was saying, his thoughts, his opinions, right? That's why they buy that book. So why now Kyrie Irving posts a link to a documentary, right? And now he's getting singled out, right? Why is that the case? You know why it's the case? Because he's a rich Negro.
Khan.
That's why. And he has a lot of followers. So when he posts something, right, people are going to go and the people are going to have a look. But what are they afraid of? Are they afraid that people are going to not believe in the Holocaust? Because there's plenty of works out there, right, of writers out there, authors out there that speak against the Holocaust, and their books are still being sold. So it's not because of that reason. It's not because of that reason. The reason is it's a Negro who is starting to question the history and question his identity in this world and what his purpose is in this world. And because he has a lot of following, right, they know a lot of people will listen and actually start to do research. That's what it's all about. It's not about Kyrie putting a link in his Instagram. It's not about that. And if they cared about whether or not he was anti-Semitic or not, they would care about things that offends him or hurts him. So the interviewer would have said, "Oh, I hear what you're saying about your ancestors and stuff like that," and that's a topic we probably need to address, but not right here and right now, because this is the issue we're dealing with. But that is valid points that you've just brought up, right? But let's get back onto the topic. But he doesn't address nothing. Zero. Just saying, "Oh, you said all that, but you posted a link." This is how these people are, man. This is how these people are, and until our people start to wake up and realize that these people, their spirit is not upright in them. The spirit is not upright in them. That's why they could just jump over all that what Kyrie said and just focus on a false allegation. And why I'm saying it's a false allegation, because he did not say I agree with everything which is in the documentary, and I agree with the part where he's talking about the so-called Jews. He didn't say I agree with everything. He didn't give any commentary. So to call him anti-Semitic, that's a false allegation. For them to do what they're doing to me is illegal. It's illegal.
Yes, defamation of character, isn't it?
it's defamation of character, absolutely right. And what I would have done, I would have hired a lawyer.
Mhm.
I would have hired a lawyer and I would have took them to court. But you know what? I don't know the ins and outs of their contracts they sign and stuff like that. So maybe there's clauses against that, So maybe that's the reason why he hasn't done it. But it shows the depravity of these people, the state of their spirit and their soul, the state of their spirit and their soul. They have got no compassion in them, none whatsoever. Right? And whenever they see an opportunity to undermine a Negro, right, like Kanye, like Kyrie, and like all the other Negroes that came out and said something and they came with their backlash against them, anytime they get a little opportunity to say, oh, we're going to go against them, and they feel as though they've got footing to do so, that's what they're going to do. Right? That's what they're going to do. But that's all scriptural. It's all scriptural because we've got to go through this. Anyway, finish the video out.
Not come out of my mouth. I never tweeted it. Never liked anything like it. So the Holocaust in itself is an event that means something to a large group of people that suffered something that could have been avoided. No one said we had to practice racism. No one said we had to treat each other like garbage. No one said that I had to stand here today and understand that many people that come from generations 60 years ago, 40 years ago, enslaved some of my ancestors still spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, and it's still going on. You guys are asking me respectfully to speak on something that was a documentary that I had nothing to do with. I didn't make it. So just please keep that same energy when you guys are addressing me.
Kyrie, for the record, do you have any anti-Semitic beliefs?
Again, I'm going to repeat. I don't know how the label becomes justified because you guys ask me the same questions over and over again. But this is not going to turn into a spin around cycle, questions upon questions. I told you guys how I felt. I respect all walks of life and embrace all walks of life. That's where I sit.
I think what people want to hear, though, is just a yes or no on that question. Yes or no.
I cannot be anti-Semitic if I know where I come from. I cannot be anti-Semitic if I know where I come from.
Kyrie, did you personally meet with the ADL?
I was informed that they wanted to have a meeting, and we handled it.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live.
Right. So, you see, they kept asking me the same question again. Are you anti-Semitic? Are you anti-Semitic? Right? And he says, I can't be anti-Semitic if I know where I come from. If you said it once, why would you ask him again? Why would you ask him again? And then they have the audacity to say, this is a yes or no question. No, it isn't. I answer the question how I want to answer it.
Yeah.
If you ask me a question, I have the right to answer it how I want it to be answered. Not you can tell me I have to answer it the way you want me to answer it. And that's the audacity of people. That's their what you call their belief that they have power in the earth, power over people. That's their belief in themselves that you're going to answer it the way I want you to answer it. Hell no. Kyrie answered it the way he wanted to answer it, and I'm glad he stuck to his guns, man. I'm glad he stuck to his guns, right? Because at the end of the day, right, all the things that have been hidden in history and all the lies which have been perpetrated in history, that's all going to come out. It's all going to come out. The scripture tells us there's nothing hidden that shall not be known.
What to learn.
Right. There's nothing that's done in the darkness that shall not be brought into the light. Right? So all the things they've done, right? All the things that they've done in the history, it's all going to come out. And as for the Holocaust, I'm not going to say the Holocaust didn't happen. There was a World War II, right? That's facts, right? And yeah, a lot of people died in World War II. So whether you want to say 6 million Jewish people died, yeah, that could have happened. I don't know. I wasn't there, right? That's the information that's been passed down in history, right? I have to go with that, right? Until I do research on it, until I come to actual facts, or until the Most High reveals everything, right, and brings everything out on the table. But let's just run with the 6 million. But at the end of the day, in the Holocaust, right, 8 million Russians died. What about them?
Soviet.
What about the Russian Soviets? What about them? What about the 8 million? Because that's 8 million. That's not 6. What about them? What about the other people that died? Hundreds of thousands of other people that died in the Holocaust. What about them?
Do they deserve an apology?
Right. That's the point. The point is you cannot monopolize the Holocaust, the World War II atrocities, and just say it only belongs to one people. All the people that went through that atrocity, right, have to be under that same umbrella. Under that same umbrella. But I haven't heard of anybody giving Russia millions and millions of pounds a year, billions of pounds a year. I haven't heard. There was Jehovah's Witnesses, 100,000 or whatever. I'm not going to put a figure in because I don't know the exact amount. There was Jehovah's Witnesses that died. There were black people that Hitler was against that died. There was Negroes that he hated that died in the Holocaust. They ain't being paid anything. That's my point. My point is you can't be biased on it. An atrocity is an atrocity. So at the end of the day, they have come out of their atrocity. They've been given land. They've been given military might. They've been given world status as a nation, right? They're being funded. They've been given reparation. But there's one nation of people who are scattered amongst all the nations who have been through their Holocaust, but their Holocaust wasn't 5 years. Their Holocaust was 400 plus years, and they're still going through their Holocaust because they've not been freed. They've not been given any reparation. They've not been repatriated to any land. They've not been given any military might. They've not been given any status on the world the world stage. They've not been recognized on the world stage. So what do you do about that? That's the point. That is the point, right? So it was very important to bring Kyrie out because Kyrie has done nothing wrong. There's nothing he's done wrong, right? As I said, there's plenty of works out there, plenty of literature out there that go against what you call common historical events in regards to the Holocaust. There's plenty of authors that go against that don't believe it, that say, oh, it's a fabrication, and their books are still out there. You can still go and buy them. You can still go and buy them. So unless you're going to vet everybody that goes and buy every single book which has a problem with the account of the Holocaust, right? Because you got to reprimand every single body, whether they buy a book, whether they're thinking of buying a book, whether they look the book up, whether they tell somebody, oh, have you read this book? You got to reprimand everybody that does that. And any book which has a contrary view to the historical portrayal of World War II and the Holocaust, you got to reprimand every single body, not one person. So it shows as an agenda, and it's only because those two people, Ye and Kyrie, are multi-millionaires. That's the only reason why they're coming against them. The average Joe, if I was to post a link to on my Instagram, there wouldn't be no letter coming in my post, and or post on my Instagram saying, "Oh, you shouldn't have posted that." There would be nothing. There would be nothing said. There'd be nothing said, right? So there's an alternative agenda, and that's what I want the listeners to understand. There's an agenda, right, which has nothing to do with him posting no link, and has nothing to do with Kanye saying, "I'm going DEFCON 3." Has nothing to do with that whatsoever, right? There's another agenda, right, which they don't want in the mainstream. They don't want to tackle head on because they'd lose that fight, they'd lose that battle, and they know they would. So they have to come covertly, right, and try and demonize from people of stature or people in the limelight, demonize things so that later on, when they want to push another agenda, then they've got the hearts and the minds of the people to say, yeah, you know, that is wrong, or that ideology, that understanding is wrong, because this is all propaganda. It's all just propaganda, right? So with that, I'm gonna let you carry on with the rest of your live. I just put that out there for the viewers to see. And so okay.
I just want to add on as well, like, because a lot of people are saying that Kyrie apologized, but he didn't. He never apologized. If you listen to his words carefully, he says, "I take responsibility for posting something that offended people." That's what he said.
Right.
And he said there's some things that are unfortunate in there, but he didn't say they were wrong.
Right.
Because all the documentary did was question things.
Right.
And if you don't like being questioned, then that means there's something going on.
Mhm.
If you don't like being questioned, that means there's something going on, because you don't want people to question why you're doing something.
Right.
And that's what happens every time someone questions them. They slap the label that they slapped on him.
Right.
If we say they control the media, it's anti them. If we say they're in Hollywood, it's anti them. Right, but they are. If you state a fact about them, they've got a problem with it.
Facts.
Never mind when you look at history and you find a discrepancy in their history. If you say a well-known fact about them, then they'll slap that label on you. And that's what they did to him. But you see, Kyrie didn't even do anything.
No.
He posted a link, and it was on his back.
Right.
He posted a link, and it was on his back. That tells you enough. It tells you enough. When in history, or in the modern era, have you seen them go against somebody for posting a link?
Right.
Never happened in history. Never happened. Nobody's posted a link, and then there's been a whole big uproar about them posting a link.
Right.
Just now. But you see, Kyrie's awake because that's why he brought up the fact of him saying, "Well, where was you when I found out 300 million of my people were buried here?"
Right.
Right. He's awake, so he's looking and he's telling them the truth. He's telling them what he knows, so they know that he's educated.
Right.
Why not go and ask us? Oh, how do you feel that we hurt so many of your people and we murdered so many of your people? How do you feel that we used your children as alligator bait? They were not asking those questions. They didn't even teach that properly in school. You have to go and find that information out for yourself. But they want to come and ask if he's upset about people saying they're upset, claiming they're upset. When they make their own amendments to their plaques and their figures.
Right.
You can go and research that yourself, because even though they use that term 6 million, which is a blanket statement because they've been using it for a long time, then all of a sudden they made amendments to it and it's gone down and down and down. But that's just research for you to do yourself. Because like I said, we ain't making any claims. We're just stating what's out there for fair use under that fair use purposes.
right?
So
And when it comes to Kyrie talking about and knowing his history, he's telling them, I know and I'm educated, and that's why he said that he now knows why learning history of words is important and learning etymology, because in their own language they're telling you what they're doing in their own language, and he knows that power, knowledge is power. He understands that now, and he said he wished he knew that when he was younger. But it took him until he was 30 for him to get that understanding or to get to where he is now. But he's saying that knowledge is power, and he's trying to tell his people through the interview,
right,
to wake up and go and seek knowledge. He's saying they're hiding something from you. Go and find it.
Right.
That's what he's saying to them. Go and find it. He said, I wish I knew this earlier. And he's talking to the youth. He's talking to the youth. Because even he did a Instagram live, and he was talking about his generation. So he was talking about his generation, right? And then he was talking about because he's talking about his generation, saying his generation is the millennials, and after his generation, which is our generation, it's gonna come Gen Z, right? And he said they're gonna take over from us, but it's time for the millennials, which is our generation now. People that are around our age that should be looking to make a change. He said he can see a shift happening. That means he's awake.
Right.
That means he can see what's happening. He literally said, I can see a shift. What does he mean? He means there's a change coming, man. And he can see the change. He can see the change. And that's what he's trying to get. That's what he's trying to get our people, his people, our people, to acknowledge and to recognize who we are, and to wake up and stop listening to the propaganda and the false history that has been perpetrated upon us. Because he even said in that interview that he was taught as the descendant of a slave, taught that he was a descendant of a slave, and that he would be nothing more than that. He would be nothing more than that, and that's what all of us have been taught. Wherever we are, that we're slaves, and we'll be nothing but slaves. But that's indoctrination, and it's conditioning. It's conditioning, and that's how they conditioned us in the slave trade. They conditioned us to not run away. They conditioned us, and it's the same thing now. All they've done is given us a false sense of freedom and conditioned us not to run. When in reality, we should run from our enemies.
Right.
In terms of not running away, but as in leaving. We should be as far away from them as possible, because all they're going to do is bring us down with them. Bring us down with them, and we're at the bottom of the pile. So if we're at the bottom of the pile and they bring us down with them, how low are we going to go? How low are we going to go? And that's what we have to elevate, man, because we are meant to be above. We're meant to be above, and the only way we're going to be above is returning to the Creator, and Kyrie's coming to that understanding, and that's why he's standing on. That's why he's standing on it, because he knows. And I pray to the Most High he doesn't fold, but right now in this moment, he knows and he's standing on it. And for that, I have respect for that, because he's in the spotlight. He's in the spotlight, so he's talking to millions of people. And remember, when you got millions of eyes on you, then you've got millions of opinions and anger and all these different things coming at you. But even with all that, even with people trying to take away his livelihood, he's still standing on it. And for that, I have the most respect.
And they'll keep doing things like that, because that same other basketballer who stood up for Kyrie, that Jaylen Brown, they never ever suspended him, but in his last game, after standing up for Kyrie, they benched him within the first half or first quarter, and they never do that because he's one of their best players. But because he stood up for Kyrie, they're trying to make a show of him, make a what do you call it?
Example.
That's the one. Salakia. They're trying to make an example of him. So you can see the things that are happening, and it's all just playing out as the Most High wants it to play out. But standing together as Israelites first is how we're gonna get out of this situation, because they don't have nothing without us. There's
Right.
nothing they have that we want, but they want everything that we have.
Right.
All we want is our identity back. That's all we want. Salakia.
Right. So let's get into the next article. Right. And the headline says New Zealand's program, right? You can read that word for yourself. I'm sure you know what it means. So New Zealand's program utilizes digital ID wallets, right? So they're using their whole agenda, which we all know about, right, to bring in the digital ID still, right? And I know that towards Australia and New Zealand and stuff like that, they've been pushing it hard. It says the use of yet another example of the last 2 years, right, being used as what looks to the authorities like an excellent excuse to introduce some new form of digital IDs and advance the usage of such tools arriving from New Zealand. It says the country's managed isolation and the MIQ government program that during the past 2 years operated by keeping records manually is now switching to JNCTN produced software tools that will serve as digital ID verification for the MIQ staff. Right, it says going forward, the program employees will have their certification, clearances, training, etc. tracked in this way, appropriate to the environment that they're in. Right, so they're trying to make their identity ID, right, and that's what they're trying to push, right. So if they're pushing, again, like I always say, if they're pushing that there, they're gonna push that in other places too. It's not just in one place, and this is just a part of them bringing in the mark of the beast, right? Because that's what it will be. It'll be digital ID, digital name, digital number, right? Digital medical record, digital everything, and it will all be in one chip, right? And it will be there to control you, right? It will be there to control you. They already control people now. We know they control people in Hollywood, right? We hear about different things and whatsoever. Not only do they control them through what they call MK Ultra, they control them through what's it called when you blackmail somebody, blackmailing and stuff like that. Right, that's what they do. Control people because they have leverage over them. When they make them sign contracts, they have leverage over these people and whatsoever. And all it is that they want control, right, over everybody on the earth and stuff like that. And that's why they want to do digital currency too, because
by programming. So all the news and media outlets, all it is a form of control, because anything they hear on the news stations, the mainstream news, they believe. Just like when all that happened and they said stay inside, and how many people listen? How many people just obliged? Because that's a form of control. They program people using the television to do what they want.
Right. So let's get another article as well. So this is the last article, right? So this is the headline on here, right? So it says here, UK state health patients will have no say over data being shared with Planeteer, right? It says no way to opt out. It says the £360 million NHS England data platform, a project that will see personal medical data fed into one of the largest healthcare data platforms on the globe, is set to launch and will not require the consent of new patients. So it's meaning that a lot of data that has been taken from people and stuff like that. And remember, the data is not taken just if you go in there when you're say you're an adult and you go in there and they take the DNA from you. Like they take DNA from you when you're a kid, when you're a baby. That's why they want you to go into the hospitals and stuff like that, right? But it says that all your healthcare and all that stuff is going to be sold, right? Because they want your information, right? And it says here, the contract is likely to be awarded to Planeteer a firm chaired by Peter Thiel, one of the largest donors to the Republican Party. Planeteer has previously won NHS contracts. The first contract was worth 1 million, right? But the company went on to win another contract in December 2020 to provide the NHS with real-time data on the prevalence of what name can I give that? The prevalence. Well, you can read it there anyway.
Mhm.
Prevalence of the
Mosquito bite. The prevalence of the mosquito bite.
Of the mosquito bite. Isn't the mosquito bite the other thing there?
Well, yeah, it's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
The mosquito.
Prevalence of the we're saying mosquito bite, so the prevalence of the mosquito bite, right? And it says ministers have said that the patient data platform does not require public consultation before a private firm is awarded a 5-year contract. The government insists that the project, dubbed a federal data platform, will improve healthcare and help with analysis into the health of the country. Some officials claim that the project will reduce waiting times, speed up diagnosis, and help get people home quicker. The Guardian report. So they're selling your information, right? So it says here the information that will be available via the platform include names, address, date of birth, medications, medical notes, health conditions, safeguarding information, social care, for use for research purposes and insights to improve care. The data will be de-identified, right? So you see, they're saying that they're going to use it for research purposes. What research do they need to do on people's DNA and their medical records? Right? They're using it for their agenda and stuff like that. Why do you think when 2 years ago when the infection was prevalent, infection was prevalent all over the world, why do you think they were saying that it was more harmful to us than to other nations? Because they'd attempted to make something that would be more harmful to us than other nations, but it turned out that it wasn't just harmful to us; it was harmful to their own as well, just as harmful, or if not more. If not more, because that was the agenda they were pushing originally. Because even here, you had what they call the Bain Group, what they tried to categorize us as Bain, which means Black, Asian,
minority ethnic.
Minority ethnics.
Mhm.
Yeah, Black, Asian, and minority ethnics. That's the category that they put us in. But they tried to make out like we were in that category, and that in that category you're more susceptible to that thing. You're more susceptible to it, and they had our people that were in their in their like hierarchy or in the upper echelons, like their I don't know, like comedians, TV presenters, anyone like in high status, right? They had them sitting on the TV saying, "Oh, you need to get the mosquito bite. You need to take the lollipop." That's what they were saying, right? Because we are more susceptible to it. But what happened to that agenda? What happened to it? Because it ended up affecting their people just as much, if not more. If not more. So their whole plan to take us down ended up backfiring. That's because that can only be the Most High. That can only be the Most High. You have to listen to what they're saying. You have to listen to what they're saying, because when they're saying to us that it's more susceptible to us, how do they know that when it was created in a lab? How do they know that? It's telling you that they were messing with that thing. And when they're like selling your data, that's telling you enough. It's telling you enough, because what do they need that data for? What do they need that data for? Right, and it's strange because it looks like the I'm sure that Planeteer is an American company. So what is a UK company or UK? Yeah, it's an American. I thought so. Right, it's American. Right, and what would a UK medical authority or UK medical business, right? What would they have to do with an American one, an American technological company, right? Exactly, because they're all working in cahoots. They're all working together. So don't be don't let them confuse you, and don't let them cloud your mind with their false sense of freedom, because they'll have you believe that you're free, but in reality you're not. They've got your information, they've got everything on you, and that's the reason why they make you. That's why they make you sign, or your parents sign, a birth certificate when you're born, so that you're signed into the state
Business,
or
yeah.
to the
Corporation.
corporation. Right, so you're signed in, right? That's the reason why they make them sign that, right? So that's what they do, right? And they sign you in there, and then they keep your information. And what they want to do is they want to keep all that stuff in one place, right? They want to keep it all in one place. And remember, the West is all in an alliance, especially the US and the UK. They're in an alliance. That's why they're selling the data to an American company, right? Because they want to use our data as well. Why? Because they want control, and plus, they still think that America is the world's biggest superpower. They still believe that when the US is on the decline, the US is coming down. Is literally coming down. They're literally destroying themselves. They're literally destroying themselves, and the only reason why they haven't literally gone full force against Russia is because they know Russia would win. Right now, they know Russia would win, so they don't want to do that. Right? They don't want to do that. They've had drills on what would happen if Russia came against them, and they already know that they'd lose. So they don't want to take any chances. So that's why right now it's about playing the propaganda game. So when the war does kick off, they have enough people to fight for them, right? But don't get it misconstrued, and don't get duped into fighting for a country that would never fight for you, right? That would never fight for you, because they would never fight for you, and they would never fight for what's right. So don't fight for a country that wouldn't fight for you. Let them go to war. Let them do what they have to do. The Most High is the one dragging them to war. Right? The Most High is dragging them to war. So don't get dragged into that. Because when the Most High is dragging them to war, it's not for the good of them. It's not for good. It's not for good. It's for judgment. It's literally for judgment. So don't get caught up in it, and don't get duped into believing the narrative that the nations are pushing. Right? That the nations are pushing. Right, because you're ready that the Most High is going to lead them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and he's going to plead with them there. And that pleading is judgment, man. And he's going to bring judgment on them. Do not be a part of that judgment. Do not be part of that judgment, because what's coming for you as an Israelite, if you turn back to him, is the kingdom. Is the kingdom, and that's what we're heading towards. Right, that's what we're heading towards, because he says in the same scripture, when he talks about the valley of Jehoshaphat, he says when he brings back the captivity of Israel and Judah, right? When he brings back those captivities, then he's going to bring the nations down into the valley of Jehoshaphat. So you're going to see us waking up all over the earth, and that's what's happening now. So the Most High is bringing these nations to war, right? So you need to get ready, because the kingdom's coming, and we need to get ready for that kingdom, because if you're not prepared for that kingdom, you're not going to be able to enter in. Right, so I hope you got something from today's live. You can share the if you share the video, right, you can have a look at the articles in your own time and whatsoever. Check them out and whatsoever. You can even check the video out with Kyrie. You can send that off to people as well and whatsoever. And because we've spoken about the gospel of the kingdom, we're going to speak about the final 4 scriptures that we always talk about. Right, at first we're going to go to Isaiah chapter 8 and verse 20. Isaiah chapter 8 and verse 20.
And it reads, Isaiah chapter 8 and 20, to the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them.
Right, to the law and to the testimony, to the song of Moses and to the song of the Lamb. If you're not speaking about Torah and Messiah, there's no light there. Why? Because without Torah, you haven't got order. Without Messiah, you haven't got we haven't got redemption. Right? One without the other doesn't make sense. You might have Torah and not Messiah, then you've only got order, but you haven't got your redemption. Right? But then if you got Messiah and no Torah, then you got no order, but you've got what you're looking for redemption. But you can't look for the redemption without the order, because the Messiah says, go and sin no more. And what does that mean? It means to the law and to the testimony. Both go hand in hand. One without the other doesn't make sense. If you got the law or you got the testimony, you got a dim light. And dim light isn't going to help you in darkness, right? In darkness, you need a bright light to be able to see. And that's what you need, right? Both of them. And then you'll have the bright light to be able to see and to move in the right way and in the right direction in this captivity that we're living in, right, or in this life that we're living right now, until the kingdom comes in. Right? So let's go to 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 3.
2 Corinthians chapter 4 and reading from verse 3.
Right?
But if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost.
Right? So if our gospel is hid, it's only hid to them that are lost. Either those that are lost now, right, and don't want to know and will never know, right, because the Most High knows the hearts of the people and he knows the people that will listen, right, and there's going to be those, right, that are going to learn at a later date, right, and they're going to learn in their own time and in their own season. The Most High knows the time and the season for people to wake up, and he wakes them up in their due time and in their due season, right. And some people have to go through harsh things to get the understanding. The same way Apostle Paul did. Apostle Paul was knocked off a donkey and blinded. Without that event happening, he wouldn't have got the understanding. The Most High made that happen. Why? To make him get the understanding. And some people are going to have to go through that, right? Unfortunately for them, but that's only because of the person that they are, right? But some people have to go through things like that to get the understanding. And they will, but then they will get the understanding and they'll be found. So at the end of the day, the event that happens will be worth the reward at the end of it, right? Will be worth the reward at the end of it. So him getting blind and knocked off a donkey was worth it in the end. Why? Because he got the truth. He got the understanding, right? So let's go Matthew chapter 24 and verse 14.
Matthew chapter 24 and reading from verse 14.
Right, read.
And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come.
Right, so this gospel of the kingdom is going to be preached in all the world as a witness unto all nations, and then the end's going to come. So it has to be preached everywhere, all over the earth. Why? Because we were scattered to the four corners of the earth, but it's also as a warning to tell the nations to let us go. Why? Because the kingdom is coming in and judgment is coming, right, for keeping us in captivity. And it's time for them to let us go so we can serve the Creator. And if they don't let us go, then judgment is coming for them. And we already know that the Most High said judgment is coming for them, so we know they're not going to let us go. The Most High knows the hearts of the people, and the Most High had to bring 10 plagues on Egypt for them to let us go. And then even when they let us go after the 10th plague, in which all the firstborn of Egypt died and the firstborn of their cattle, they still came after us. So that tells you the hearts of the nations. That tells you the heart of Egypt. So the fact that the heart of Egypt is like that is telling you they're not going to let us go until the Most High intervenes and takes out the nations, right? And takes out the nations, because only those of the nations that cleave to us, the house of Israel, and that serve the Creator are the ones that are going to get saved in that day, right? Are the ones that are going to get saved in that day, right? So let's go to Matthew chapter 26. I'm going to read from verse 6.
Matthew chapter 26 and reading from verse 6. Now when Jesus was in Bethany, in the house of Simon the leper, there came unto him a woman having an alabaster box of very precious ointment, and poured it on his head as he sat at meat. But when his disciples saw it, they had indignation, saying, to what purpose is this waste? For this ointment might have been sold for much and given to the poor. When Jesus understood it, he said unto them, Why trouble ye the woman? For she have wrought a good work upon me. For ye have the poor always with you, but me ye have not always. For in that she hath poured this ointment on my body, she did it for my burial. Verily I say unto you, wheresoever this gospel shall be preached in the whole world, there shall also this that this woman hath done
be told for a memorial of her. So no matter where the gospel of the kingdom is preached, whenever we talk about the gospel of the kingdom, right, the memorial of this woman has to be spoken of, because when the Messiah came, he didn't come speaking his own words. He came speaking the words of the Father that sent him. And the Father said any word that he puts in his mouth, that he speaks and we don't listen to, is going to be required of us. So when you're not listening to the words of the Messiah, it's not his words you're not listening to, it's the words of the Creator, right, that sent him, right? And that's what you have to understand, is that when he came, he didn't come to do his own will. He came to do the will of the Father. He said to the Father, not my will, but let your will be done, right? So when he came here, when he said things, it was always to do with the will of the Father. So wherever we preach the gospel, we're going to preach this. And why? Because she comforted him at the time when he was going to go through the tribulation, and he went through the tribulation first. And without him going through that tribulation, we wouldn't have had this second chance, and we would not have had this redemption. So this is a small thing that we can do to remember this thing that the Messiah did, right? And remember the thing that this woman did at the time when he was going to go through the tribulation, right? So I hope you got something from today's live. Right, I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Check out our Facebook page, Israelite Apostolic Heritage, our YouTube page, Israelite Apostolic Heritage, our website, IsraeliteHeritage.com. You can check out our individual pages on YouTube as well. No, on Facebook. Mine's Eba Solomon. You got our elder Thakowa Shalama, and my akh behind me, Yardan Ben Yasharala. So check that out for me. Check that out for us. Or you can even message us on there if you want to have a chat with us, or if you want to talk to us about anything. Our inbox is always open for you to come and talk to us. Right? So
ding the notification bell just in case we go live. When we go live, you'll get a notification so you know that we're going live, so you can join in. Get active in the chats more. If you want, you can always speak to us. Like I said, we're approachable. We're all in this walk together, and I pray that you got some edification also. Shalom.
Oh. Do you want to say anything, Alder?
Yeah, just shalom, and I hope everybody's had a good Shabbat, a peaceful Shabbat, and just all love and peace and blessings to the house of Israel, to the children of Israel, the heritage of Yahweh, right, which have been scattered abroad through our transgressions. But we have to remember that he put us in the condition we're in, not because he hates us, because he loves us. And it's all a learning process. So, and once we start to understand it's a period of time, you know, because the from Adam to the kingdom is a period of time, it's thousands of years. And the Most High was showing that from the time of Adam coming up, using the prophets, then Messiah came, and then we had to go into bondage, captivity. We had to bear our iniquity, and we're still going to have to bear our iniquity even when the kingdom comes in. But He's going to still have mercy on us, and He's going to bring us out, you know, and redeem us from amongst all the nations. And He's going to use the children of Israel. He's going to use Jacob to do his ministry on the earth. His work on the earth, you know. So although we find ourselves in tight spots, in hard places, we got to keep walking every day, whether the day's hard, whether it's light, whether it's easy. We keep going. Some days are going to be tough, some days are going to be hard, but you just keep going, because at the end of it is the promises, is our blessing at the end of the walk. You know, it's an endurance thing, right? So with that, I'm going to give all praises to Yahweh Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai, for all that they have done for us, the Most High, for all that He has done for us, and for Yahweh Shai for coming and giving Himself as a sacrifice, and being able to open the seals so that we could understand these last days, so that we would be prepared to receive the kingdom. So keep the faith and keep walking in the name of the Most High. Amen.
Amen. So with that, we're going to say Shabbat Shalom, peace and blessings, Wabati Wanama, and we're going to say all praises to Yahweh, Hashem, and Mashiach Yahweh Shai. Amen.
Amen.